Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Stephanie Miracle with the Federal Reserve Financial Services, and I'm so pleased to welcome you to our FedNow Service Town Hall. Now, today we are celebrating the FedNow Service's 3-year milestone. FedNow continues to see dynamic growth, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about how we are continuing to innovate throughout today's session. One of the hottest topics in the industry is how to effectively engage with your account holders about instant payments. And we're going to take a deep dive into different aspects of customer and member experiences, not only from participants, but also how the Fed is leaning into this space. First up, Nancy McDonnell and her team at Texas Capital share how they have focused on removing friction from payments and delivering value not only to their own customers, but to their customer's customer, which I think is especially exciting. And next up, you'll hear from Rebecca Weifenbach and the team at Credit Union of Colorado, who are elevating member experience through innovative approaches to risk mitigation that create a compelling user experience. So, in addition, the Federal Reserve Financial Services is launching a new customer engagement tools for our participants. So, whether you're sending or receiving on the network, we have options for you. Heads up, we're going to talk about this right after our conversation with Rebecca, and I know you're going to want to get all the details there. And finally, I'll share more about our industry engagement this year, including upcoming events and how you can continue to connect with us. All right, but before we get into all of that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. To optimize audio and enhance accessibility, you may wish to enable closed captioning for today's webinar. To toggle on closed captions, simply select the closed caption option at the bottom left of your viewing window. You can also choose your preferred caption language if desired. Additionally, please take a moment to locate the Q&A and polling panels, and those are at the bottom right of your viewing window. While we won't be answering questions today during the session, you can submit questions at any time throughout the webinar. If you have any issues with your connectivity, send an email to sysfednowcommunity@chi.frb.org and we'll work with you to get it resolved. But if that is not working out the way we had all hoped, do not worry. We are recording today's event and it's going to be posted along with the slide deck to frbservices.org in the coming weeks. So pay attention for that. All right, so let's get started with a little background. The FedNow Service is an instant payments infrastructure developed by the Federal Reserve that allows eligible depository institutions of different sizes across the United States to provide instant payment services. And through financial services participating in the FedNow Service, businesses and individuals can send and receive instant payments in real time, around the clock, every single day of the year. Now, this week is especially important for us because it marks our 3-year milestone of the FedNow Service. And since launching low these many months ago, the FedNow Service continues to drive innovation and power instant payments nationwide. We have over 1,800 financial institutions on the network, including 7 out of 10 of the largest financial institutions in America. As instant payments gain momentum nationwide, the FedNow Service continues to evolve to meet the needs of our customers. We continue to respond to industry feedback, including from many of you, by introducing new functionality that helps make the service faster, safer, stronger, and more accessible. In the past year, we've increased our transaction limit to $10 million, introduced new APIs, and added new fraud mitigation and liquidity management tools to make it easier for organizations of all shapes and sizes to send over the network. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. Volume has grown 80% quarter over quarter, and active senders on the network have increased 85% year over year. Community credit unions and banks are pioneering opportunities for instant payments, creating amazing experiences and deepening relationships with their members and customers. Across all of our senders, it's been phenomenal for me to see them finding new ways to improve customer satisfaction, streamline operations, and capitalize on new business opportunities. Now, Texas in particular is thriving on the network with over 200 financial institutions live or onboarding. Nancy McDonnell, who's the managing director and head of Treasury Solutions at Texas Capital, shares insights in how they are driving instant payment innovation, in particular for their business customers. So, as we begin sharing this recording, you may wish to close out of other applications to conserve your bandwidth and ensure the best viewing experience. And you can add subtitles. Nancy, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. Before we dive into our discussion, I'd love to start with getting to know you a little bit better. In your role as Managing Director and Head of Treasury Solutions at Texas Capital, can you share a little bit more about yourself and the work you lead there?
Great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for letting me be a spokesperson for what I think is just an incredible addition to our payments rail here. So Texas Capital Bank, I've been at Texas Capital Bank about 5.5 years, joined back in 2021. I do have a long history in banking and really part of a transformation team really here at Texas Capital. My role specifically is along the Treasury Solutions side of the business. And so when you think of that, think of all the payment rails, think of all the collections tools, things, product that we do, obviously our risk, the part of the business, and obviously how we're going out and talking to our clients and our prospective clients. When you're in Treasury, you're also in funding. You're in funding the institution. That's a big part of Treasury Solutions. We obviously bring funding to the firm as well as the ability to create that client intimacy that I think we're all looking for as we fight more and more for relevance among the fintechs and others. So I think that it's funding for Texas Capital, it's the product delivery, it's being with our clients and our prospective clients and really delivering the entire platform that's Texas Capital. So I came here very specifically to build a treasury platform for Texas Capital.
Oh, outstanding. All right. Well, it sounds like you've already made a big impact there. So tell us about Texas Capital. Who are your clients? What pain points did you identify that the FedNow Service could help resolve?
Great. Well, Texas Capital is in the world of banking, we're not the oldest by far. We're about a 25, 26-year-old bank founded here in Dallas, Texas. We're about $34 billion total assets. And our client base is really segmented. We segmented our business banking client. We have our traditional middle market client that we cover by region. So we have 5 offices here in the state of Texas. Then, of course, we have our national vertical. So we cover a myriad of industries, really coast to coast. So if you think about those verticals, it's healthcare, it's treasury, technology, media, telecom. It's our energy business, of course, our diversified group. And we do have, again, those national verticals, and that certainly includes our commercial real estate group, our home builder group, and things in the real estate segment. So that's Texas Capital. Really, we're a wholesale financial services firm headquartered here in Texas. And I think one of the more unique things about Texas Capital is we have a full service investment bank. So as part of the transformation back in January 21 and moving forward into 22 and 23, we stood up literally from the scratch, if you will, a full service investment bank where we offer all types of capital solutions for our clients. We have public finance and, again, many offerings that you would see really in a traditional New York style global investment bank. So we're a wholesale bank, we're a retail bank, and we have a very full service investment bank as well. Kind of a different animal, but one that we're extremely proud of.
I would be too. One of the things that you mentioned about your various industries and strategies that you're working through, so many of those are in a dynamic, fluid state, right? They're really evolving themselves. Healthcare, there's a lot going on there. Energy is a ton. Investments, there's so many dynamic. It's such a dynamic space where they're really looking at how everything, right? How they engage with the market, and including payments themselves. So it's quite interesting to hear that. So thank you for that. So as you came into instant payments, what drove you your decision to begin actively sending transactions with FedNow, and how does the FedNow service help Texas Capital meet your strategic business objectives?
Well, again, as I said, our strategic business objective is to be relevant to our clients to help them meet their day-to-day needs. So as you think about where payments has evolved, we knew we had to be on the FedNow system. Instant payments is absolutely uh, the way that our clients need to interact in many, many different scenarios. We obviously still process checks. We are an ACH bank, clearly. Checks, wires, but ACH doesn't capture the 24/7, 365 that we needed. Our clients are moving to compete globally and certainly nationally, and they have to be able to compete on a 24/7 basis. So as we were thinking about how do we maintain and become even more relevant to our clients, we knew we had to be 24/7. We knew we had to give them the capabilities to compete globally, compete locally. And without having an offering in the instant payment space, we simply were going to lose relevance to our clients. And that is obviously not what we're here to do. So the solution needed to be delivered, and the FedNow opportunity, again, great partnership with the Fed. And it was just something we knew that we needed to do. As you think about how we're delivering this service using APIs, et cetera, you really have to think it is a critical part of what we have to do on the payment side.
Excellent. So what use cases have you targeted for instant payment transactions? What does your roadmap look like? What's up next for near term and versus maybe a little bit further out?
Okay, well, I think it's really important to know that we are both a send and a receive. So I think most people are receive. Everybody takes money, right? Everybody loves that. But we felt it's really important to be a send institution as well. And again, the use cases are varied, but I mean, you have payroll. I mean, as simple as payroll when you need termination or emergency payments, earned wage access. If you think about the gig economy, that's really important to us. It's really employee reimbursement as well. If you have people out on the road and they need to have reimbursement immediately, this is a way to do that. I think it's also a real benefit, and we think it gives our clients the ability to be ultra competitive, paying commissions. Think about a real estate closing on a Saturday. If you can deliver that commission to an agent or someone who's on commission on Saturday, that helps our clients to be even more competitive in what's already a very competitive space. So those are just some of the things that we've thought of. Insurance claim payout. Anytime we think our clients are trying to distinguish themselves, by being really there for their client, their end user, or as they seek to be, again, differentiated, I think the instant payment network was critical to us. So that's some of the things that we've done. We've looked at all these and we've used some of them. And again, that's all on the send side. Now, certainly on the receive side, like I said, everyone will take the money, right?
I like that. What's interesting to me about the use cases that you just went through there, you did talk about some edge cases, like some exceptions to payroll or, things like that. But what you really rapidly moved into was, here's how we can enable our clients to be competitive in their space and how we can enable them to do their day-to-day business activity. I don't think there's any news around an exceptional behavior around real estate commission, but what a powerful story that is for your customers to be able to say, hey, this is what we offer, and such a competitive advantage there. So I really like that you went through some exceptions, to be sure, but really thinking about how can you distinguish yourselves? How can your customers distinguish themselves using payments? So quite interesting there. Now, your go-to-market strategy was quite interesting. So when you launched FedNow, I would be curious to hear more about your market engagement and what strategies you might share with us about that.
I think when we looked at instant payments in FedNow, we knew that we had to educate not only our clients, but we also had to educate our own firm. Again, this is something, so we took really a three-pronged approach to this. We have a fully developed intranet site that is all about instant payments. How does FedNow work? What are some of the use cases? What does this mean? Including the fact that if your client chooses to send an instant payment Saturday morning at 10 a.m., that money is gone. I think we have to be we have to provide education to our partners across the firm. So whether it's an investment bank or a commercial bank or whatever, we had to do an education job, because I think most of our industry thinks of us as Monday through Friday, Fed cutoff times, which is great. Wires always have a place, right? So we had to do an internal education. So if you were a Texas Capital employee, you would see a fully developed internal website that tells you what this is, how to use it, how to think about it. It's a good funds model, etc. So we did that education. Then we had to go out and really talk to clients and talk to them about what are your pain points? What are you not getting done that would help you be more competitive? So we've done a lot of, we've done the traditional going out with, pitch books, which all bankers are very guilty of. We've done that, but we've also been very active in doing what we call our Treasury Innovation Luncheons. So we host luncheons. We get our clients, and this has been probably the most impactful thing that we've been able to do, get clients who actually use the instant payment rails now, the FedNow services now, to talk about how it changed their business and specifically talk about how they brought that into their organization. Because our clients don't think about payments 24/7 like we do. They are worried about AI. They're worried about tariffs. They're worried about what's going on globally. So having them speak to other, operators, business owners, clients of any type about how they brought that into their organization and talked about, hey, payments are going to change from a Monday through Friday thing to a 24/7 opportunity for us. And we talk about it as being an opportunity. So we've brought in speakers that have included our own clients. And I will tell you 90% more impactful than me standing up talking about it. And then, of course, we participate in the local AFPs and we go to the conferences and we are always trying to speak about this. But so internal, one-on-one with clients, certainly getting our clients to speak about how it's really given them an opportunity to be competitive. And then, of course, being active in the associations that promote payments around the state and around the nation.
And, isn't that exciting to hear from your customers and having them share their story? Because you've learned so much about what's going on in their world and what was really the priority and the impact. You may thought, oh, it's this. And then you hear from them and you're like, wow, that I did not see that coming. There's so many exciting things there. And I think you're right. It's 100% hearing from their peers can be so compelling and powerful, and such a game changer in the room where people start to imagine, hey, what would I do with instant payments? So that is exciting to hear.
Well, and to hear how they overcame the obstacles, because you can imagine in a traditional business or even if it's a startup, gig economy business, their CFO, the CEO is not used to hearing the words, we're going to make a payment with finality, real-time gross settlement right here on Saturday morning. So let's understand what that means for us. And so I think having that from a CFO talking about how he or she worked with their finance committee, their AP department, their AR department, their CEO, even their board, that's the powerful message that a client can deliver that I can't.
Right, right. And it sounds like even within those conversations, as you've been having these and hosting these events over time, it sounds like even the conversations with your businesses have changed and evolved and how they think about this from an exceptions into more mainstream. And I wonder if you could share, how you've helped your business customers understand the different ways that FedNow Instant Payments can help them address their needs.
Yeah, again, I think what we tried to do is explain to them how the system actually works. And I have to throw in a fun fact here. One of our product managers, he is actually the product manager for instant payments, was actually at the Atlanta Fed on July 23rd, the day the first instant payment went through.
Is that right?
Was that okay? Are we not meant to be in this business or what? So this individual, he's a great guy. We're delighted he's on our team. But we were talking about this. He said, Nancy, I was actually there at the Atlanta Fed where this actually happened on that date in July. So I said, well, clearly Texas Capital was meant to be in this space. That wasn't your question at all. But I will tell you, it's having people who speak payments. And we do think of payments as a real pillar of Texas Capital. And when we say payments, we're talking about, the day-to-day ins and outs of Treasury. And so when we talk to our prospective clients as well as our clients, we do try to start with what's the problem you're trying to solve. And if you think about the businesses we're in, so let's take oil and gas. Think about if you've got a rig drilling offshore that is a day rate business, meaning you get charged for every hour that rig's out there. If you need a part and things offshore or onshore break down, right? If you need someone to deliver, fly out via a helicopter or a plane or drive it out, they typically want to get paid before they show up. So if you
Right.
have an emergency, and again, you said that I don't really even consider that an exception. I consider
Right.
that a contingency payment opportunity for my clients.
Mhm.
And so if you think about how the world is going 24/7, and we can all talk about energy. I'm from Texas, so we follow that obviously religiously. So it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. You really have to be ready. And I think the other thing that we've talked about with instant payments and FedNow particularly is the ability to provide resiliency. Everybody talks about resiliency. How are we going to keep the lights on? How are we going to keep the workforce safe? How are we going to pay for these things that we've got to have? And so I think we talk about it as a part of a really well thought out resiliency plan, as well as, hey, wouldn't it be cool to say this, that you have this, and use it as a marketing advantage? How about it's just really good business practice as we all think about contingency and being ready to operate our businesses appropriately with great thought. And I think contingency is one of those great aspects of FedNow.
hmm you've really touched on some interesting use cases and how it has changed. You've talked about mainstream, you've talked about resiliency, which I think is a really standout point to kind of think through. And I love that your approach to go to market was, what's a problem we're trying to solve? And then what is fit for purpose to solve that problem? Because not every, it's like ACH works a treat. There's no reason to reinvent that wheel, but
Right.
sometimes it doesn't. And
Right.
sometimes you need more flexibility. Or in the case of, wanting to fly supplies out, so you need it right now. And supply chain friction is still there. It's
Oh,
still a thing. And I think there's lots of use cases around that are interesting. And so I love these real world use cases that you've shared with us. That's excellent. Um, any noted shifts in how your customers use instant payments the longer they're on the service? So as you see a particular customer come in and start to use it, how is it evolving? And what do you think triggers that evolution? Is there something there that we can glean from?
my experience is this: clients start by dipping their toe in. It's an exception. Oh my, are we going to do this? Should we do this? How do we do this? So we do talk about being prepared, even if you don't think you're going to need it. So clients will start. My experience is clients will start with that exception. Okay, we got to do this. We're going to do it one time. Oh my gosh, we're sending $8 million. What should we, or $2 million? What should we do here? And then they see that it really is, in seconds that something has happened. That it's irrevocable. That anywhere in the US you can affect this payment. And so then you start thinking about, well, okay, we did that, it worked. Now what else, what other businesses could we drive? And especially when we're trying to get to consumers, right?
Mhm.
We know that the Zelle network is not B2C, right? It really isn't. So we know that this is a way to get to the consumer. We know that this is a way for your first, when you establish a new vendor relationship. Look, after you've been doing business with somebody for 20 years, you can send a different kind of payment, but to establish that new relationship, a lot of times it's cash on the barrelhead, even if it's Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. So
Right.
you don't want to send a wire, but they want to know you're good for it. So I think they dip their toe in, then they think, well, this could work. And then they see more and more use cases. But look, I'm not telling anybody to change their ACH batch payroll on the 1st and 15th. Batch has a big place still in payments,
Mhm.
and we it's good. It's good. So we do like that, and we want to be using this appropriately. And I think that clients dip their toe in, they see what it could do for them, they come up with ideas to differentiate themselves. So it's usually no one jumps in full bore. I have not seen that. So I think that the client has to have a good experience. So that's where we come in to try to make sure they do have a good experience, that they understand that they can see it on their side as well as the receiver can see it on their side. So they dip their toe in, and then they start getting creative.
such a great perspective there. And I think that that sounds right. I mean, I think just as financial institutions are taking baby steps to come into the network, so are their end customers. Like, let's just try it, see how it goes. What are we learning? Oh, now this opens up more and more opportunities. So
100%.
Nancy,
Right.
I have really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share your experience on the FedNow service. We're really looking forward to this. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been a great pleasure, and we have really enjoyed our interaction with the Fed and the opportunity to deliver FedNow to our clients.
Well, I got to say, I loved learning from Nancy, and especially hearing how an employee at Texas Capital had a memorable experience on the first day that we were live. That was such a powerful day for all of us, and really, really appreciate that. It was such an exciting day to be a part of, and to be a part of, to see that moving forward. So it's always great to hear when people have been there. Just like Texas Capital, we are seeing how businesses in a variety of industries are leveraging instant payments to deliver a new era of customer experience by making payments themselves a benefit, which I think is so interesting and exciting to see that evolve over time. All right, now I'd like to hear from you about your plans for adopting the FedNow service at your organization. So many of you on this call are live today, so go ahead and check that box. And while we have the poll open, I'll just give you guys a little bit more background here. But the poll is really asking what time frame, if you're live or if you're coming in the next year. Perhaps it's a couple of years out, or perhaps you're just not sure. But we'll leave that up and give you a chance to answer those questions. But meanwhile, I'd like to share a preview of what's next for the FedNow service. FedNow participants can look forward to more flexible choices and tools in the months ahead. As I mentioned before, our roadmap is shaped by industry feedback, and we're committed to enhancing trust, transparency, and customer experience across the network. So, first, let's talk about trust and confidence as our top priority. A common theme from financial institutions is that they would like more confidence that funds are going to the intended recipient. Now, this spring, the Federal Reserve Financial Services launched payee name verification for retail recipients using our deep ACH data set. Now, it is intended to help reduce authorized push payment fraud and minimize misdirected payments. Now, we're actively exploring making this a real time solution via API, and this will sit alongside our newly released Network Intelligence API, which helps institutions assess risk in real time before sending a transaction. We are also working to expand our net send limit functionality so that participants can better manage liquidity for their business customers' activity. Now, we've seen rapid growth for participants sponsoring fintechs and other businesses by leveraging the on behalf of solution to rapidly support businesses who have large send activity. So that's pretty cool. I love seeing those new features coming out. Now, next, we're going to increase our flexibility and unlock even more innovation. So this fall, we plan to offer updated ISO 20022 messaging to support several important use cases. So this is an optional message in the beginning that opens up the possibility to process the domestic leg of cross-border payments. Now, supporting this will require the Board of Governors approval and an update to Reg J, as well as our operating circular 8 that govern the FedNow service. The new ISO message specs also more closely aligns with the way US businesses work. So, for example, mortgage loans and payments will have data elements that are more closely reflect the needs in this space. As a result, this will increase transaction transparency. And not only do these enhancements impact payments, it will also support enhanced request for payment functionality. Over time, we will shift these specifications to be the standard for everyone, but this stepped approach gives participants and service providers time to prepare while also allowing those who want to take advantage of these new capabilities based on the needs of their customers and members to go ahead and lean in. Already, participants are part of a pilot to test these new specifications, so it's pretty exciting. All right, so when I look at the poll, it looks like we've got the vast majority of folks who are already live or even coming in the next month, the next few months. So I love seeing that, and we look forward to having you on the network. So for those of you who are coming in soon, stay tuned because we're going to talk about how we can help you be set up for success. So stay tuned for this. All right, so next I had the opportunity to sit down with Rebecca Weifenbach from the Credit Union of Colorado. And I got to hear more about how they are leveraging instant payments as well as transparency around controls to improve their member experience. After hearing from Rebecca, we're going to share how the Fed is offering new marketing tools for participants to engage your own customers and members to help demonstrate your value, your solutions that you're offering using the network. So stick around for that too. Recently I heard from a credit union who came into the network, and what they said is in the highly competitive financial institution market, the FIs that have instant payments will be more attractive to the next generation of customers that expect everything instantly. And I thought that it encapsulated so much about choices that financial institutions are making coming into the network and how they are engaging with their members and customers. Joining me today is Rebecca Weifenbach. Welcome and thanks so much for being here. Before we jump into our chat, let's start with getting to know you a little bit. In your role, you oversee the digital aspects of Credit Union of Colorado. Can you tell us more about yourself and your role?
Yes, Rebecca Weifenbach. I've worked at the credit union for just over 21 years. I am a senior digital services analyst. And most recently, I've been in the digital team for about 5 years. We are Colorado based. We have over 160,000 members, and we have really high digital adoption. So, member focused, unique, personalized experiences is really what we're aiming for within our digital platform.
Mhm. That's excellent. So, tell us a little bit about your membership. You've talked about that they're pretty digitally savvy. What pushed you to join instant payments? And I think with FedNow, you started with the ability to move funds between like my account, so me to me transactions. How did those choices reflect in the everyday needs of your members?
Yes, we started with Receive, really to meet the needs of our payroll, our gig workers, people getting tax payouts, just, that speed. And then we did turn on Send, and that's really where our members get to experience it. We have a huge amount of members that really like to transfer to their family members, their college kids. We also have a lot of people that like to pay their rent electronically. With the cost of rent and everything in Colorado exceeding, we really needed that channel where we could meet that need. A lot of our members actually get paid the same day that their rent is due, so that instant payment was really, really helpful for them.
Oh, that's such an interesting use that you did. You made some observation about your member activity, about when they're getting paid, and then when their bills are due, to really see and identify a simple use case, paying my rent, to create a really compelling experience for your members. I love that. As you launched and came into Send, what did you learn about enabling Send in addition to receiving transactions? Where did you see the biggest member impact?
Really around that me to me transfers and the paying of their rent. Um, Specifically, we saw a lot of our members really testing it out. They would go in and they would see the instant payment button and, oh, that you would see them send a small amount and then, oh, I can actually do this. And it really did go instantly. And then we would see them transfer larger amounts. So that's really we're seeing that digital adoption as that I'm transferring to my spouse or I'm transferring to my kid, even at another financial institution, those type of things.
I know that all too well. As we have been talking, you were sharing what an emphasis you've put in on your member experience. And that has come to fruition not only in the user interface, but also in the controls that you have. And indeed, you've done something I think is quite interesting and maybe even revolutionary, a high degree of transparency into how you're setting dynamic limits, new payee protections, and clear member transparency. Can you tell us how this is shaping your member experience?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have both fraud rules in place and dynamic limits in place. So it is an initiative that we started about a year before we decided to begin our journey within instant payments, and that was intentional. So a couple different things. For one, if a member is performing a transaction, we have a brain behind it that looks at behavior data, transaction data, um, where the member's money is sending, and we determine, do we need additional authentication to get this transaction to go through? Is it okay to go through as it is? And then separate to that, how much money are we willing to let go out with this? What is the limit that's determined, right? And for some of our members, they're excellent members. They have years of history of higher dollar amounts, and we want them to be able to move the money that they need to move in that transaction. That same member could have a bad actor in place, and all of a sudden it doesn't look like them. And so we want to protect that member. We want to put those high risk tiers in. We want to put those cool off tiers in so that if their behavior looks different than what they've been doing, we can catch that. We can still let them do the transaction, but we can make sure that we're mitigating the risk on that. So we do have that in place. And the beautiful thing is we worked with some really great vendors, and we have some great vendors in place where we have control over that. So if tomorrow we see a new fraud ring that is come into town, we can take a look, we can make adjustments, not just to our fraud rules, but maybe even to the limits that we're offering based off whatever that scenario is, so that we can still make it as frictionless as possible for our members to be able to send their money.
Mhm. I love that, and I think, one of the things that you were sharing with me earlier was that you try to keep them in the payment rail of choice, right? You're letting the member choose the path that they want to go in, maybe the timing or efficiency of the payment, but at the same time, you're able to give them some transparency around what they're able to do, and I think that transparency aspect of it is quite interesting to see. I wonder if you could share a little bit more about your member reaction to this new experience with your digital interfaces?
We have gotten really great member feedback, right? Our surveys are really telling us this, our members are telling this, our employees are telling us this. Anybody loves to be able to move their money quickly, but even our members who have had an experience where maybe they couldn't move as much as they wanted in this particular transaction because it is a newer payee or whatever that looks like, they appreciate they can move something. They also appreciate the transparency around it, and they appreciate that we're here to protect them in their finances. As you know, with this channel, money moves instantly. You can't get it back. It's the same as cash. And it doesn't feel like cash when you're spending it. So you really have to put that fraud in place to protect everybody involved in that transaction. And that's really what we've worked towards.
Mhm. And I also like that you not only looked at your member pattern of behavior, but you're also looking at the full transaction. What's happening here on both sides of this equation, and does that make sense to help support? What needs to happen here? Like, it might be a new payee, it might be other things that are suggesting to you that this is maybe something that needs a little bit extra attention.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right. So, you've started out with me to me, and I love that rent payment. I think that's so compelling, and being able to move funds between your own accounts and sending out to friends and family. What's next? What's next for Credit Union of Colorado? Where are you looking at moving forward to?
We're really exploring access, right? How can our members access this easily? It's not as member friendly to be like, "Hey, Stephanie, can you give me your routing number and your account number so that I can transfer you some money?" That just doesn't quite feel right. So how are we going to enable something so that our members can do those person to person transfers in a cleaner, easier way? So things we're exploring, even that potential of the QR code, all of these things are something that we're just looking into to see what our next step is. Opening up access to our business users. How can they use this for payroll? Those are the types of things that we're going to really be looking into. Also, the ability to pay some of our vendor partners quicker. We have our indirect lending platform. We certainly want to be able to pay our dealers quicker. Everybody likes to get paid quicker. So looking at all of these different ways of how can we do this and how can we be the best in the business at building these relationships and helping our vendors have a good relationship and our members have a good relationship.
I love that because what I heard you saying is here's some problems we need to solve, right? So even as you're talking about a P2P sharing RTN and account number, it doesn't feel as comfortable, but you're like, how can we solve this problem? And the QR codes is certainly a fascinating area that's coming up in the marketplace. So that is exciting. And then also, hearing like, oh, hey, where can we enable? What does it make sense to enable faster money movement with your businesses and being able to fund payroll or even doing payroll disbursements or those indirect loans? If I buy a new vehicle, how great is it to get paid before my customer peels out of the parking lot in their new vehicle? That's such a compelling story. So I think that's pretty smart to look at where are the friction points, where are the opportunities, and how can we present a better experience for your members. So that's pretty exciting. I wonder if you had any lessons learned or maybe things that you thought were going to be a big deal and it turns out not so much. Any words of wisdom for other financial institutions coming into the network?
It was a pretty seamless transition. I think really the biggest thing is just getting your fraud in place beforehand. Right, really determining your strategy, your risk appetite, all of those things, because without that foundation that we built, we would not have had that same success. We would have been reliant on others for rules and all of those type of things when we had a really strong foundation of what we wanted to allow, how we wanted to do this, and how we wanted to best set up our members and in our organization. So I think that's the biggest thing is kind of vet all of that out before you go into this and make sure that you're ready for it because you're bound to get some new challenge as soon as you open the door, and making sure you have the right tools in place to be able to mitigate that and handle that challenge is really what the best experience that I can offer.
Maybe one final area here. Are you looking at how you talk to your members and telling them about their abilities to use instant payments? Like, how did you go to market?
We actually didn't do any marketing around it.
Oh,
Um, and that was just it was a choice. Now our digital banking platform does market it itself. If you go to RK Transfer and you can see instant payment and it is very noticeable. We also have another opportunity where if you are doing a standard external transfer and that financial institution was available for instant payment, it gives you the opportunity to make a switch right there mid transaction. So that's really what we did. We didn't really go tell the world that we were doing it, and we had pretty quick adoption.
oh, that's excellent. I would love to see that. Is that something that you can show us?
I would love to.
Excellent. Well, Rebecca, it has been our pleasure to get to connect with you today. I appreciate you taking the time to share your experience about the FedNow service and the value of instant payments for Credit Union of Colorado members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. It was a pleasure.
It's always so great to hear how different organizations are successfully fighting fraud and some great tips that Rebecca shared in their approach to risk mitigation. And honestly, I am on Team QR code, so I love that they are exploring that space too. Now, I want to share about some new tools that we're offering FedNow participants to engage with your customers and members, no matter how you're participating in the network. While many participants start with a soft launch with minimal marketing, we've heard from many of you that you are ready to take the next step. So, great news. We have a new participant resource center that pulls together tools and customizable materials so that you can highlight the value of instant payments to your members and customers. Now, we've developed blog content, website content, web banner, social media captions, and even social media images that you can then customize and share to make it easy to get the word out across all of your channels. For our 1,800 and more participants, be on the lookout for information on the new resource center coming soon. And to the hundreds in our onboarding process, be sure to ask your onboarding manager for details. To learn more about how the FedNow service continues to build momentum 3 years in, check out our new infographic, which highlights our 80% volume growth quarter over quarter. Now, don't forget to check out a recent interview with Nick Stanescu, which highlights some of the new capabilities being prioritized, including that payee name verification and request for payment. One of my favorite quotes from the article highlights Nick's thoughts on how to unlock the full value of the network. He said, the ones getting the most value from the FedNow service aren't necessarily the biggest. They're the ones rolling up their sleeves and really weaving instant payments into everyday customer experience. And I think what Nancy and Rebecca shared with us is exactly that. So it's exciting to see the network evolve and really making such a big difference in the lives of consumers as well as businesses. And finally, today we spoke about risk mitigation tools. To learn more about the new FedNow Service Network Intelligent API, check out the article on the FedNow Explorer, which highlights some insights from early testers. So hopefully today's discussion has sparked your curiosity. To learn more, we offer 2 strategic sessions where we'll answer questions, share lessons learned, and provide insights. I know, for example, some of you are asking, hey, is this cannibalizing other payment rails? What kind of exceptions are we seeing on the network? Come to the Tuesday, August 11th session. This is for a strategic roundtable highlighting how the FedNow service and instant payments can benefit your organization. We're going to include other topics like use cases and where you can get immediate value, lessons learned from current participants on operational efficiencies and risk management, as well as Q&A sessions about those FedNow features. Now, I'll tell you, hundreds have gone through this session, and I would say better than half the time is spent answering your questions and hearing from others. So really encourage you, if you haven't yet joined the network, for those of you who said you were coming in the next few months, this is a great session for you to dive into and get all of your questions answered. Now, if you are live or are just looking to send on the network and you'd like more information about that, then join us on the following Tuesday, August 18th, for an interactive webinar to discover practical FedNow use cases for sending transactions. We're going to highlight why sending and receiving transactions rather than just receiving delivers a greater return on investment. Now you can register using these QR codes that are displayed on your screen. And I think it's going to be, these sessions are so dynamic and have received such positive feedback. So do come to this. We're going to talk about all different angles of send, whether it's you yourselves as a financial institution, maybe you want to get out of check business, maybe you want your retail side to start sending, we're going to talk about that, or maybe you want your businesses to start sending. We have so many use cases for you, so do join us. We look forward to that conversation. All right, now we are going to be out on the road at upcoming conferences, and we always look forward to engaging with you in person. In September, we're excited to be at the MAG Payments Conference in Nashville, a great town, as well as Sibos in Miami. And later this fall, you can find us in Vegas for both Money 2020 as well as AFP. So if you plan to attend, be sure to stop by our booth or request a one-on-one meeting with us through the FedNow community mailbox. And to find out where else we'll be in 2026, you can scan the QR code at the top of your screen. We're committed to providing you with the support you need when using our services, and your relationship manager will be able to discuss your organization's business needs and use cases for instant payments. And this will help you explore business cases, provide lessons learned from our participants, and ensure you have a great plan for success on the network. So if you're already live on the network, awesome. You can still talk to your relationship manager about getting more value. And you can find your relationship manager by either, if you already have their contact details, you can absolutely stick with them. But if you're perhaps new and not quite sure who your contact is, scan that QR code in the middle of your screen. And that will take you to a list. You can type in your financial institution. It'll share with you who your primary contact is. And as always, you can reach out to us directly at cis@chi.frb.org. And finally, we've recorded today's discussion and we'll post it out on frbservices.org within the next few days. So stay tuned. Thank you again for joining and have a great day.